Hi guys, so what's taking place in Northern Ireland is frankly shameful. The DUP, since the elections took place, refused to allow the Northern Ireland Assembly to choose a speaker and for the new executive to be formed. The consequence of this is that money that could be used to help the people of Northern Ireland currently struggling with the cost of living crisis is blocked, and also the massive backlogs in the NHS that have built up during the pandemic are not being dealt with. Now, in Northern Ireland, there is a requirement following the Good Friday Agreement that an executive is formed by the largest nationalist party and the largest unionist party. The largest unionist party at the moment is the DUP, who refuse to budge because they want the post-Brexit, which they supported, the post-Brexit protocol scrapped. Eóin Tennyson from the non-allied Alliance Party had some strong words for the DUP.
I rise as the first member of this House to have been born after the Good Friday Agreement was signed. It beggars belief that we're here today, 24 years on, with those institutions once again being placed in jeopardy. My generation was promised more than this. We were promised not just peace, but progress. Progress that has never been fully realised because of the poor political leadership that is on display in this chamber today. Since the election, the Alliance Party has been here every Monday, doing what we can to serve our constituents and willing to get on with the full jobs we were elected to do. Today is no exception. Again, we stand ready to support the nomination of a Speaker, and over the course of today's proceedings will likely support both Patsy McGlone and Mike Nesbitt for the role. Indeed, little over 2 weeks ago, over 70% of members in this chamber, nationalist, unionist and none of the above, supported the appointment of a Speaker. My vote and the votes of my 16 colleagues were effectively disregarded. How can it be that the votes of a cross-community party be excluded from a cross-community vote? That one party be able to block an appointment is an affront to democracy and disrespectful to the people that I represent. The case for reform has never been clearer. Shamefully, the DUP turned up, signed the register, took their salaries and then refused to do the jobs they were elected to do and serve our community. They claim to be exercising leverage. They are treating the most vulnerable in our community as leverage. Their actions over the past number of weeks will not hurt Boris Johnson or the EU, but it will hurt people languishing on waiting lists. It will hurt people relying on food banks. We've heard much today about the Good Friday Agreement and about equality. You will forgive me for taking no lectures from the party to my right on either. They have spent a lifetime railing against both.
Well said, Eoin. Now, so he's touched on a number of things here. The idea that the Alliance Party and other parties have been returning to the Northern Ireland Assembly, calling for a vote on a new speaker. Now, they can't conduct really any work because they don't have a speaker yet. And I think what their idea is, we're going to continue to do this, going to continue to put pressure on the DUP, and hopefully a few of them will say, look, we need to go along with this. We need to form an executive. We need to at least vote for a speaker and then form an executive. Because Boris Johnson's not going to get rid of the protocol. The EU is not going to get rid of the protocol. And Eoin is right here when he talks about leverage. You know, the DUP have no leverage over Boris Johnson. They have no leverage over the European Union. If it's up to them to decide whether the protocol remains or not. But by not having an executive, as I said at the beginning of the video, there is money that is tied up that cannot be distributed to the most vulnerable in society in Northern Ireland. People who are struggling, as Eoin said here about people who are relying on food banks. There are NHS waiting lists that need to be dealt with. You need to have a new health minister. You need to have a new government. You can't just rely on the Northern Ireland Secretary. You can't rely on Westminster. When power is devolved, things work better. You can see it in Wales, you can see it in Scotland, and up to this stage you could see it in Northern Ireland to a certain extent, apart from the DUP blocking things. But the Northern Ireland Executive needs to form, and I think it's the right approach by the Alliance Party and the other parties to return to the Assembly every week and continue to debate, continue to talk, to put pressure on the likes of the DUP to come back and realise that the people of Northern Ireland are worse off if there isn't an executive. And also the constituents, the people who voted for the DUP, those are people who are relying on food banks. Those are people who are on NHS waiting lists as well. And they would be better served by having an executive. Even Boris Johnson said that. Yes, Boris Johnson. So I hope the Alliance Party and the others succeed in putting sufficient pressure on the DUP to at least vote for, to start to vote for a speaker and then finally form the executive. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.